What's up, PokeMoshPit? My name is XLegacy, and today I'm bringing you a great YouTube battle I had against a YouTuber named Jolteezy. Now, this was a really long battle, but it was still a really good battle. I believe it was about 33 turns. Despite it being a really long battle, it was one of the better battles that I found, so that is exactly why I decided to share it with you guys. But looking at the teams here, I do have a very offensive team that abuses the Volt Switch and the U-turn, so I definitely need Stealth Rocks to not be on the field, so I'm going to have to watch out for his Rhyperior if it does end up being the Stealth Rocking set. Right away, I do notice that he has a lot of defensive Pokemon. He has the Rhyperior that could possibly be defensive, as well as the Umbreon and the Arcanine that could possibly be defensive on one side or the other, so I really need to watch out for that. The only other thing, however, that I'm actually worried about is his Azumarill, because Azumarill with a Choice Band really does do a lot of damage to anything on my team. And speaking of my team, I actually do have the Choice Scarf Mienshao, which really plays to my advantage a little bit in the battle, and I have a Choice Specs Raikou, which plays to my advantage as well. I have a Dragon Dance, Sub-Dragon Dance Kingdra as well, and a Life Orb Victini, as well as two defensive Pokemon in the form of a Stealth Rocking Gligar and a specially defensive, I believe, Umbreon. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the team preview. Let's get right into this battle. Alright, so first turn, I'm going to lead off with my Gligar. He leads off with his Arcanine, and the first thing I see is that he has the Intimidate, and now I'm thinking maybe this thing is physically defensive, and then he shows me the Will-O-Wisp, so now I'm thinking this thing is definitely physically defensive, and I need to make sure that nothing else gets burned. But I am going to go ahead and go for the Stealth Rocks, as he does end up switching into his Azumarill. Those Stealth Rocks are really going to help me out, because every time the Arcanine switches in, it's going to take some massive damage, so I'm going to go straight for the U-turn, as he does end up switching into his Azumarill, as I said before. I'm going to go straight into my Kingdra, though, because I know that I can take pretty much any hit from this thing, and go straight for the Dragon Dance and start setting up in his face. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go straight for the Dragon Dance as he goes for the Ice Punch. Now, he probably thought this Ice Punch would do a little bit more damage than it did, but it ends up only doing about 71 HP. So that's really good for me, as I'm going to be able to go for yet another Dragon Dance as he switches out into his Umbreon. And this Umbreon, I'm only afraid of it because of the Toxic possibility, and I really don't want my Kingdra to be Toxic and Life Orbed. So on the very next turn, I'm going to go straight for a Substitute because I really don't want to be Toxic, as I just said. So now I'm going to go straight for the Substitute, as he does actually end up going for the Wish instead of the Toxic. I guess he doesn't really have the Toxic. Either that or he expected me to attack him. So now I'm just going to go straight for the Waterfall, and this Waterfall actually ends up doing a lot of damage to that Umbreon, which is great information to know because I can easily 2-hit KO it, but then he goes for the Curse. And that really sucks for me because now he's going to be at +1 defense and +1 attack, and to make things worse, he does actually end up getting his Wish now, and now he's going to be pretty much at full health, or at least at high enough health where he'll be able to take a Waterfall much more easily. So I'm going to go straight for the Waterfall. Of course, I did not know this at the time, and of course the Umbreon actually ends up living with about the same amount of health as last time, so I'm going to go for another Dragon Dance as he actually ends up going for the Wish again, which really sucks because I cannot take this thing out for the life of me. So I'm going to go straight for another Dragon Dance, as I just said. He's going to go for, I believe, a Payback now, and that is easily going to be able to break my Substitute because it is +1 and boosted and stab and all that stuff, so my Substitute fades, and yet again this Umbreon gets the Wish, and it gets pretty much back up to full health. Now at the time in my mind I was actually debating going for the Outrage instead of the Waterfall over and over again, which probably would have killed the Umbreon easily, but I really did not want to be locked into a single move, and that's exactly why I didn't go for that. But unfortunately, now he's going to be able to take out my Kingdra with a Payback, and now I'm just going to go right into my Mienshao and go for the U-turn, and thankfully for me, he does leave it in to die, which is great because I am finally able to take out that Umbreon. So I'm just going to go straight into my Victini now because I know that Victini is probably the second fastest thing next to my Mienshao because it's Scarfed, so I'm just going to go into that. He ends up going into his Houndoom, however, and I know that the Sucker Punch is probably coming, but he actually goes for the Protect, which is weird. I don't know why he has the Protect on the Houndoom, but I'm just going to go for the U-turn because I know I can live a Sucker Punch, and he does end up going for the Sucker Punch, but I know I can go for a U-turn, easily knock that thing out, which is great because that's a gigantic threat out of the way as well. So now I'm going to go back into my Mienshao because I know I'm Scarfed and I'm going to be able to U-turn out on anything because our rocks aren't up, which is really playing an important role in this battle, as you can see. And now he ends up going back into his Arcanine, and based on the information I've gathered from the previous turns, I know he's going to definitely try and burn me, so I'm going to definitely U-turn out into something that would appreciate getting burnt more, such as my Umbreon. So that's exactly what's going to end up happening. I'm going to switch into my Umbreon, as he does in fact go for the Will-O-Wisp, and he does hit and my Umbreon does become burnt, so I attempt to synchronize that over, but of course it won't work because Arcanine is a fire type, and for these next few turns, he's going to go for the Flare Blitz, and I figured that I could take one much more easily than I did. I wanted to go for the Heal Bell and then the Wish the very next turn, but that is not the case because it actually brings me down to about 75 HP, so that's really unfortunate because had it not been for that crit, I probably would have lived a lot more easily, and then I would have been able to go for the Wish like I planned on doing, but that is not the case because he's going to go for another Flare Blitz, able to take out my Umbreon, and that is really sad because now I have really nothing to take special attacks. But since the Arcanine is physically defensive, I'm going to go into my Raikou now because I know that one Thunderbolt will easily knock it out, if not do a lot of damage. But I know that this is painfully obvious that I'm either going to do the Thunderbolt or the Volt Switch, so I'm not going to go for either move. I'm actually going to go for the Hidden Power Ice because I know that Rhyperior is more than likely coming in, and thankfully for me, it actually does come in, and it does a lot of damage to it, which is great because I get to take out this Rhyperior, this gigantic threat, and it also prevents him from possibly setting up his hazards such as the Stealth Rock, so that's great for me. Now on the very next turn, he does send back out his Arcanine, which is questionable because there is no way that he knows that I am Specs and not Expert Belt or something, so I could have easily went for the Thunderbolt and knocked out his Arcanine, but I am actually Specs, so I'm going to be forced to switch out into my Gligar now, as he does go for the Morning Sun, which really sucks because now he's going to be back up at pretty much at full health, and I really can't do anything other than go for the Earthquake, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go straight for the Earthquake as he ends up switching into his Azumarill. Now the Azumarill I am kind of afraid of because I know that it has the Ice Punch from earlier, so I'm definitely going to have to end up switching out here. So that's exactly what happens. I'm going to go straight for the U-turn because I know that he doesn't have the Aqua Jet, otherwise he definitely should have went for it by now. And I'm going to go into my Victini because I figured I could easily take an Ice Punch from this range of HP, but he actually ends up going for the Waterfall, and that really sucks for me because I'm going to lose my Victini, but because he did take out my Victini, I now have a safe switch into my Raikou because I know it is faster, and he's either going to be forced to switch or he loses his Azumarill, so he actually ends up switching into his Scrafty, I believe, and I do end up going for the Volt Switch because I know that I will get Switch Initiative and I will be able to go into my Mienshao and definitely scare this thing out some more with a high jump kick that's Reckless boosted and Scarf, so nothing will be able to outspeed me. So that's exactly what happens. He gets scared out by the possible high jump kick, and I do actually end up going for the high jump kick because it's Reckless boosted, and I know that it's definitely going to be doing a lot of damage to something regardless of the Intimidate, so I'm definitely going to go straight for it. And just like I predicted, I do a lot of damage to something. The problem is that thing was myself because I do miss the high jump kick, which is crazy because it's a 90% accurate move, or so they say. So I'm going to go straight into my Gligar because I know that the Will-O-Wisp is more than likely coming, and he actually does go for the Will-O-Wisp and he hits it, and that really sucks because now my Gligar won't be able to do as much damage as I would like it to. But now he's going to switch out into his Azumarill again, and I'm going to go straight for the Earthquake because I figure he can't do anything to me. I can't really do much to him except for the Earthquake, which is super effective, so I might as well go for it. But now he goes into his Azumarill, and I really don't want to take a Waterfall or a Ice Punch or anything, so I'm going to U-turn out. I actually get a crit, but it doesn't matter at all because it still does absolutely nothing. So I'm going to go into my Raikou now because I know that I can easily take a Waterfall from this thing, and I know that I can retaliate with a Volt Switch or a Thunderbolt now that his Rhyperior is not around. So that's what ends up happening. He goes for the Waterfall. I live it with about half my health left. He's going to switch out into his Scrafty. I'm just going to go straight for the Volt Switch because I really want to scout to see what he's going to do. And if he did not switch, he would have lost his Azumarill. So that works out for me either way. And unfortunately for him, I do score the critical hit, which doesn't really end up mattering too much because I could have just switched into my Mienshao, which I do end up doing, and I would have just went for another U-turn. But here, I'm just going to decide to go straight for another high jump kick, and clearly I did not learn my lesson from last time. I go straight for a high jump kick, and the Arcanine actually ends up living with the smallest slither of HP. He's able to go for the Morning Sun, and he's going to be back up to about half health. So this Arcanine is definitely becoming more of a problem as the turns progress. So now I'm going to end up switching out, fearing the Will-O-Wisp once again. I'm going to go into my Gligar, and he actually goes for another Morning Sun, which really sucks because he's going to be back up to full health, and I have absolutely no way of killing this thing unless I somehow get a safe switch into my Raikou. So that's exactly what's going to end up happening over these next few turns. I'm going to let him kill my Gligar as I just go for Earthquakes and get as much damage on this thing as possible. So not before long, this Arcanine will no longer be a problem if everything goes according to plan. And of course, he does end up going for the Flare Blitz this turn. He ends up killing my Gligar, and I get a safe switch into my Raikou. Now this is great because this is exactly what I needed this entire battle to be able to take out this Arcanine with a Specs Thunderbolt, and seeing how there's nothing else in the way, that's exactly what's going to end up happening. I'm going to go straight for the Thunderbolt. Fortunately, I don't miss, and this Arcanine is ancient history. Now, his only Pokemon left, I believe, is his Azumarill. Now, the Azumarill won't be a problem because it isn't the standard banded set with Aqua Jet and Waterfall and all that stuff, so I'm easily going to be able to outspeed, go for the Thunderbolt, and that will be good game. So thank you, Jolteezy, for that amazing battle. I really enjoyed it. He does have a YouTube channel, so please go check that out. I also have a YouTube channel if you'd like to see more of my content. But other than that, thank you guys for watching today. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on PokeMoshPit, so thank you all for watching once again, and I will see you guys next time.